an Irish friend of mine messaged me in the first half of this game saying, we're going to win the World Cup. So what do you reckon, Ireland fans? You starting to believe? I know it's going to be a tall order. You've got a tough quarter-final coming up. There's no guarantees you'll get through that. But do you accept now that maybe on form, the track record, the winning streak, you are the favourites for the tournament? You can let me know in the comment section. I think it's such a tough one to call, in particular because the World Cup's in France and the record they have at home over the last 4 years. Their only defeat being to Scotland when it was behind closed doors. It has a bit of an asterisk by it, but looking at the Stade de France here, and you'll notice that I'm holding the microphone closer today. That's because I think it's so loud. I was worried you wouldn't be able to hear me. The Ireland fans are showing out for this World Cup. I think there is hope, there is belief, there's no guarantees, I know that. Anything could happen, particularly in that quarter-final and how lopsided the draw is. But you can let me know in the comments down below. Are Ireland going to win the World Cup? Are they now favourites? They've come through the group of death, a group that was widely regarded as the toughest pool in World Cup history, and Ireland have come through it, winning all of their matches, out-muscling the Springboks, blowing a good Scotland team away on the final weekend of pool fixtures. They were brilliant tonight, and I want to start with Ireland. I will get on to Scotland. They'll be disappointed, but from an Irish perspective, they are an incredibly difficult team to beat, and it is going to take something very, very special to be able to beat this Ireland team. I was thinking of this game today, and their penalty count was very, very low. They showed what they can do in attack, scoring after about 90 seconds. Their defence was absolutely rock solid. Scotland had to wait long into the game before they were able to score any points. And the set piece was good as well on both sides of the ball. They disrupted Scotland and had a solid set piece themselves. So I know there are other teams in this competition that can hurt them, but it's going to take a heck of a performance to beat them. In the same way it's going to take a heck of a performance to beat the All Blacks next week. In the same way that it'll take a heck of a performance for anyone to beat France and anyone to outmuscle the Springboks, as we saw Ireland do with a great performance. So it's an Irish side that are just so impressive to watch. And I came here today thinking, do you know what, it's going to be tough for Scotland, but can they keep it close? Can they trouble Ireland? I was hoping that it would just be a close game, a tense game, that we'd get to the final 20 minutes, final quarter of the game, and all eventualities would still be on the table. Well, Ireland put them to bed after about half an hour. In fact, you could say they put them to bed arguably after 90 seconds, scoring that try, because you think of a Scotland perspective and you have to start well, right? Well, Ireland just broke through them. They went through the phases, they cut through. Gary Ringrose, brilliant, and they scored in the left-hand corner, and from that moment on, it was an uphill battle for Scotland. And in my video last night, after watching France absolutely dismantle Italy, I posed the question of, is this the weekend in the Rugby World Cup where we see the difference between the very top sides in the world and everyone else? And I said maybe we would find out after tonight. And maybe that question has been answered, because Scotland are not a bad side. They'll be disappointed with elements of their game today and in the match against the Springboks, but they are the 5th best team in the world, and they were not able to compete tonight. And I wonder what's happened since the Six Nations. Is it just a product of being in a World Cup and these sides having had a couple of months in their camp? That just makes the best sides even more cohesive. It makes the gap even harder to bridge. I honestly don't know the answer to it, but I think this probably is the weekend that we have seen the difference between the very best sides in the world and everyone else. So from Ireland, absolutely brilliant. Huge quarter-final next week. And are they now the favourites? I know it's so tight, but I just think on the evidence we've seen, it's hard to pick anyone above them. Maybe the French, because France have that home advantage, but there we go. On to Scotland. This is going to sound really harsh, but given the fact that this was regarded as the hardest World Cup pool ever, has this pool just simply exposed the limitations of this Scotland side? We know if they were in Pool C or Pool D, they would have probably qualified top of the group, no problems whatsoever. But ultimately, they are where they are in the world rankings for a reason. They're not as good as South Africa. They can't outmuscle the Boks and weren't able to throw a shot, and they weren't able to outmuscle Ireland either. They couldn't really throw a shot. They went through plenty of phases, particularly in that first half, but they went backwards, they struggled to break the gain line on a consistent basis, and maybe this is just the level for this Scotland team, and that's, I don't know, I suppose that almost seems a little bit patronising. I don't mean it to be. I just think maybe in this pool and the awful draw they ended up getting, they've kind of ended up where we expect them to. This team don't have the firepower and don't have the capabilities of beating the best sides in the world, and I don't really mean that as an insult. I mean it as possibly a reflection of reality and where they are at this moment in time. What was fascinating from a Scotland perspective was the psychological element. We spoke about it before the game of, would Scotland go chasing points early on? Do you think we saw them do that? 3 penalties early on in the 22. They didn't kick the points, they went to the corner. And I'm not saying it would have made a difference to the game, clearly. Based upon what we saw, Ireland were just too good for them. But was that the psychological element? Scotland feeling they need to chase the game early on, not getting the points there. Ireland repelled them and then went up the other end and eventually scored, and the game quickly got out of hand. They struggled with injuries as well. Kinghorn and Jamie Ritchie, 2 key players, going off early. Those things would not have helped, but I don't think it would have changed the eventual outcome from a Scotland point of view. So a brilliant occasion at the Stade de France. You leave your comments down below. What do you make? I suppose there's 2 big things really from me. What I posed at the top of the video, are Ireland now favourites for the World Cup? And from a Scotland perspective, is this just the unfortunate reality of where they are at the moment? As good a side as they are, they're not quite good enough to beat the very best teams. I think that's possibly going to be the case and the reality. It'd be interesting to see what Gregor Townsend and co say about it. So let me know. I look forward to reading your comments. Make sure you like the video as well and subscribe to the channel. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.